Hello and welcome to Virtual Investor Conferences. My name is Bob Power, and on behalf of OTC Markets, we're very pleased you've joined us for our next live presentation from Aurion Resources. Please note you can submit questions in the box to the left of the slides. You can also view a company's availability for one-on-one meetings through the Schedule Meetings tab found on the conference platform. At this point, I'm very pleased to welcome David Lotan, Chairman of Aurion Resources, which trades on the OTCQX Best Market under the symbol AIRRF and on the TSXV under the symbol AU. Welcome, David.
Thanks so much, Bob. And thanks all for taking time to view our presentation today. Aurion is a gold exploration company working in Finland. We've got 3 discoveries in progress. We have partnerships with or investments from 3 major gold companies, B2Gold, Kinross, and Newmont. And we're very excited about what's coming in 2024. I'll make some forward-looking statements today. So there are 3 assets in the company that are worthy of consideration today. We've got discoveries with our partner B2Gold on our joint venture property at Helmi. We have a 100% owned property called Risti, which has several discoveries on it that are also in progress. And the district is ripe for consolidation. Probably the best gold discovery in the world in the last 10 years is Ikkari, made by Rupert Resources, our neighbor to the north. And that property is very close to our boundary line. The company has 132 million shares outstanding, $64 million market cap. Just about $8 million in the bank. $9 million in the bank at September 30th, guiding to end of the year between $6 and $7 million worth of working capital. Kinross owns 9.9% of the company. Newmont owns just under 3%. Eric's brought Ross Beatty are investors, and we have a really good roster of institutional investors around the world. Franklin Templeton out of San Francisco, Adrian Day out of Washington State, Conway out of Switzerland, RBC Global Asset Management out of Toronto, and a host of others. Management is still the largest shareholding group of the company at just under 13%. I'm the largest shareholder at 10% as of yesterday. I'm a volunteer chairman for the company. I don't accept any compensation or any stock options. Generally, I get diluted down in financings and buy my way back up in the open market. I just did that for the 6th time yesterday, actually. And all this is just so that shareholders are aware that we're running the company for their benefit. Finland is a very interesting jurisdiction. Mining was in the hands of the state until 1995 when Finland joined the European Union. As a result, the state mining company Outokumpu was in control of all ground in the country. Outokumpu was not concerned with gold. They were only interested in GDP-related minerals, nickel, copper, iron ore, that sort of stuff. And as a result, although they often found gold, they would merely put it in the data archives and move along. As a result, the Central Lapland Greenstone Belt, which is the area that we're working in, while it has all the characteristics of the Abitibi or the Norsemen in Australia, and while it has the largest gold mine in Europe, Kittilä, 8 million ounces in all categories, there's really not much else there. We think this is obviously just because it's not been explored for the last 100 years. And certainly when one compares it to the Abitibi or to the Norsemen or to some of the greenstone belts in Africa, it's just missing billions of dollars worth of investment and 100 years worth of exploration. So all of that is in front of it, and we think many, many gold discoveries to come. We might have one of the best land packages in the area. This jagged black line is called the Circa Shear Zone. It's a crustal scale fault modeled to 9 kilometers depth. It's about 200 kilometers long. And our founder, Mike Bash, was able to stake or option about 80 kilometers of this area. This despite the fact that gold was found perhaps 40 times along this line and really never followed up. So a fantastic land package. When we got there, there was tumbleweeds blowing through the area. There was a little bankrupt mine at Patavera, Rupert, our neighbor, now holds that and the land package associated with it. We had a bankrupt test pit on our Cudavoma property, which is now in joint venture with B2 Gold. And the red outline, which are 100% owned properties, there were just a couple of straight gold showings on or around that. So since that time, you can see that there's just been an explosion in discovery. Our Amorisco high-grade discovery was the first one in the area. The stock went to a couple $100 million worth of market cap. That brought in Kinross at $230 a share, and Goldcorp bought 5% of the company in the stock market at $280 a share. That's in hibernation at the moment. It's a pretty tough discovery, and although we think it's going to be significant, we're working other areas on the property now. In the interim, Rupert, our neighbor, made this fantastic discovery right on our boundary line. It's called Ickery, and you can see it just at the juncture between the red and the blue outlines there. And within a year of that, Aurion and B2 together made this Helmy discovery just on the other side of that blue line. So hard to find anywhere in the world these days where gold discoveries are happening every year or every 2 years, but this is one of those places. The joint venture with B2 Gold is vast. You can see it in the blue outline here. It goes for many tens of kilometers. It's probably got about 20,000 hectares inside of it and follows this Circa shear zone. It's oddly shaped because we've avoided all environmentally sensitive areas in order to have free range to work. And discoveries are happening, we think, on a regular basis here. The area that we are most interested in on this joint venture is its northeastern boundary. You can see in this yellow outline here the discovery that's been made by our neighbor Rupert Resources to the north. This Ickery discovery, which, as I should mention again, is not ours, is, I think, one of the best discoveries in the world in the last 10 years. It drilled out to 4 million ounces with only 36,000 meters drilled. It produced an NPV of $1.6 billion after tax and IRR 46%. And some of the lowest capital intensity we've seen in years. It's only $400 million of capex to generate that IRR and that NPV, and 25% capital intensity is really a massive outlier in our industry today, where almost everything seems to cost $1 billion. It's really a great discovery, incredibly economic, incredibly rapid in its development, but right on the boundary of our property line, and potentially, therefore, some opportunities for collaboration. It isn't just our discovery at Helmy, which is likely to be an extension of this, which is an opportunity. You can see in the inset on the lower right-hand corner, this is from a slide that Rupert Resources produced, that Helmy is only very lightly drilled. So far, it doesn't look as good as Ickery. It's only about half as wide, and it runs 1.5 grams, whereas Ickery runs 2.5 grams. But it does likely represent the exploration upside for this part of the property. And when we zoom out, we can see that the 7-kilometer long stretch between our Helmy discovery and a historical showing called Cudavoma on the property is probably where the exploration upside is in this area. It follows the major structure that Ickery sits on and Helmy sits on. And if you go 7 kilometers to Cudavoma, which is the historical showing, there's 600-gram meter drill holes there, and that is likely to be another shoot along the way. We don't know what's in between. There are only very few drill holes here, but we think that this is the area where we're going to find new gold shoots or gold occurrences, and we're excited to see what will happen there in the coming year. Moving to our 100% owned Risty property. This was the sensation of the market a few years ago. I'm going to advance the slides here and do this in reverse. We made a wonderful discovery at Amorisco in 2016. It was 1,200 boulders over 1 kilometer by 1.5 kilometers, averaging 25 grams. You can see the giant fragments of quartz veining lying on the surface of this old second growth forest here, very close to a logging road. Those were spread out over this large area. We got investment from Kinross and Goldcorp as a result of this surface showing without even a drill hole. We did eventually, after 2 years, manage to drill into one of the sources of this massive boulder field. The discovery hole was 3 meters of 800 grams. It was helicopter-supported drilling in this rugged hill, the mineralization dipping in at a very awkward angle. And so after a couple of years, we decided to put this discovery on hold. And one of the reasons is when you compare it to discoveries in Canada and around the world, it's very, very clearly going to be a high-grade vein-hosted deposit and likely requires tens of thousands of meters, if not more. We see discoveries like this in the Abitibi on a regular basis, and we see multi-100,000-meter drill campaigns. And once Ikkari was discovered, we decided that perhaps there were more efficient discoveries to be had in the region. As a result of this, we focused on this area that we call Caris, which is about 3 kilometers to the south of Amorisco. And here, with some historic work, we think we've gotten onto something very interesting. The discovery hole was 56 meters of 2.4 grams. This is very comparable to some of the holes drilled at Ikkari and Helmi. The mineralization looks exactly like the mineralization at Ikkari and Helmi, and the hit rate over 800 meters here is extremely high. I think we've been drilling off 80-meter centers, and although I don't think we've demonstrated that it's going to be as significant as Ikkari or Helmi at the moment, it's clearly a significant gold system with lots of potential to grow. It sits on a 15-kilometer-long structure that goes all the way to the joint venture boundary, and we're not even certain if we're in the best part of it yet. It's a big opportunity, and I think probably the future of the company. One of the things that we like to talk to investors about is exploration. It is almost counterintuitive that one should talk about why this is the place to invest in the sector. It's very dangerous. It produces a lot of zeros. If mining is cyclical, exploration is super cyclical. You can see just about 35 years here in the history of the venture index. And when you zoom out to this scale, you see very, very jagged movements in our markets and long bear market phases between really, really sharp bull market phases. We're getting towards 750 trading days into a bear market phase here. I suppose the long one we saw after the China supercycle hangover was closer to 1,200 days. I don't know if we need to go through that kind of brain damage in order to get a bottom in this market, but we are close to historic bottom levels, and perhaps if you're a contrarian, this is the time. One of the reasons we've seen this happen is that, as happens in most industries that get hot and are cyclical, capital flows in when investors are excited and then spends years flowing out when they aren't. And this was produced by Bloomberg and was circulated quite widely on Twitter recently. You can see that we've gone from 16 billion of capital in specialist funds in 2010 down to 2.8 billion in specialist capital today. It's I suppose both a blessing and a curse that we have these specialist mutual funds that provide capital to this sector. It creates these pro-cyclical opportunities for investors. When they start to underperform, they get redemptions, they have to sell investments, and they create their own underperformance, and you get into these death spiral situations. It does, however, work, I think, exactly the same way in reverse. When you get a little bit of performance in these funds or just a little bit of new capital into the sector, usually it bottoms. The market cap of the sector itself is very small, and you can get these fantastic self-sustaining pro-cyclical moves to the upside. We are certainly at a low in capital for this industry, and if there's a time to invest in it, now seems potentially likely the right time. The other reason that we focus on discovery, not just hoping to take advantage of these wild cycles in the market, but because exploration itself, when it's successful, defies cycles. This is the performance of Reunion Gold and Rupert Resources, our neighbor, over the last 3 years. you can see that despite the fact that we've been in a mining market bear, those returns have been spectacular. More examples if you need them: Vizsla Silver in Mexico and Snowline Gold with this generational discovery in the Yukon. Hundreds of % return in awful markets. And so why is that? It's really because this is the part of the sector where all the value is added. It doesn't mean that companies are able to crystallize it for investors. There are a few tricks involved in making sure that when you have exploration success, you're able to get it into the stock price for investors. Mostly that's about not diluting, but there are other things that are required for this. Often you see in bear markets exploration success that isn't rewarded by market cap, that then as investors begin to sort out the opportunities, later see sharp stock price gains. You can see some of these fantastic holes here in the companies that drilled them and the market caps they're at today. There's Aurion there in the yellow bar. It's a really fabulous drill hole discovery that we have there. Not yet in the market cap, but we think plenty of potential to get there. The last and most important reason why we focus on exploration, not development, not any other part of the curve, is because mining is a really, really tough business. And almost on a weekly basis now, you see terrible things happen to publicly traded mining companies, whether they're increasing their cost guidance, or whether they're decreasing their production guidance, or whether, like First Quantum, they're having troubles in their surrounding community and political troubles. Bluestone recently announced a permit in Guatemala, went up probably 40%, and then 3 days later, the incoming government in Guatemala announced they'd be auditing permits, and now it's back down sub 40 cents again. Endeavor Mining, problems with their CEO. It's really, really very typical to see billion-dollar losses or multi-hundred-million-dollar losses for mining companies on a regular basis. These amounts are a reflection of what they need to pay in order to make sure they have good ore bodies and diversification to fall back on when major mines are troubled. So all those losses, despite the fact that the industry has not been staying still for all these years, you can see $70 billion worth of acquisitions over the course of the same period, with a $740 million average. And that's somewhat skewed by Newmont's takeover of Newcrest. But it is really, really hard to just stand still in this business. And one of the reasons we focus on exploration is because it's our conviction that finding new things, that replacing the pipeline for these major mining companies is the opportunity for investors. Monetizing joint ventures is tricky. You don't see it very often in this business, so we put this slide together. It's a bit confusing. The orange dots are the percentage of the property that these green bars represent. The things that I'd like to point out on this slide are Virginia, Great Bear, and Abitibi. These were all royalties. They had been diluted all the way down to just a couple of percent in all cases, and yet they sold for hundreds of millions of dollars. We have 3 assets in the company: our 100% owned ground, our joint venture ground, and this potential for consolidation in the area. And I think that the joint venture alone is worth more than the market cap of the company today. And this data supports, or this provides some data that suggests that this has been true in the past. Well, we're a $64 million market cap today. I think if we are at a bottom, this represents an opportunity for investors. And I think what I'll do now is conclude the presentation and take questions if there are any. All right, I am just looking in the Q&A box now, which is very difficult to read. Thankfully, I have my glasses on today. So, Ray, can you speak to your milestones and drill programs for 2024? Yes, I can. We have several holes coming from our 100% owned ground that we drilled in late November and early December. B2 Gold has 10 or 14 holes left to press release from their 2023 exploration program. And we're drilling right now on the joint venture. And I think we can look forward to results on a monthly basis between now and the end of the year. Eric. Are there royalties attached to Risty, and what is the 2024 planned exploration budget? There are no royalties attached to Risty. There was one at Caris in favor of Tertiary Resources. We bought that back 2 years ago, so Risty is royalty-free, and Helmy is also royalty-free after our buyback of the Dragon royalty last year. And I would point out that lots of juniors were selling royalties last year in order to fund their business. It's been pretty tough the past 5 years, I suppose, but during that period, we've managed to retire 2 royalties, which could have been quite substantial. And I think that that's been the focus of our business over time, is to make the company more valuable by doing the things that are most valuable. And sometimes that's buying things back in tough markets. Paul, will B2 be drilling the immediate southern boundary next to Ikkari? The answer to that is yes, and I think that's happening now. Jose, what attracted Sprott, Kinross, and Newmont to invest in Aurion? Well, Newmont and Kinross both invested because of the physical showing. The giant boulder field at Amorisco still remains something that I've never seen the likes of in my career, and I think that that's true for the geologists at Kinross and Goldcorp, actually it was at the time, who came into the property. Many of them thought that the quartz veins were going to be the smoke and that there would be a more significant deposit somewhere else on the property. That's the theory that we're following up now. Nonetheless, every place that gold has some mechanism for depositing on the property, it does. So as you know, sometimes chemistry, magnesium or iron in rock can draw gold out of solution. Sometimes it's just a drop in temperature and pressure. And that's the case at Amorisco. There's no chemistry. Those are just inert sediments. But for some reason, I guess they shattered at one point during some seismic activity or tectonic activity. You had a really, really nice high-grade gold occurrence come out there. And we think that it's going to be very significant, but it's really, really difficult to drill given the geometric complexity of the situation. So we hope to be back there. But for now, we're looking for the next Ikkari on our property, and that's because Ikkari drilled out in only 36,000 meters. Jeff, aside from promising results you have presented the last few years, the way you've structured the company, your ability to run the company, and also buying in the open market have all factors. Are you able to tell us what you hope to get out of the project at the end of the day? Sure, Jeff. I think that our hope is to see some consolidation around the joint venture. A lot of investors and bankers who are familiar with the situation on the ground think that Ikkari needs a layback. And I suppose B2 is in control of that right now, as they're the operator on the joint venture, and that's the ground that I suppose will be helpful for that play. I'm not going to say that it needs it, actually. That's probably a little bit aggressive. But let me back that up and say there's plenty of reasons for collaboration in that area. So while it's difficult for juniors to monetize joint ventures, I think that this joint venture interest is one of those ones that should be part of something larger and should be part of something larger sooner. The Ikkari project is moving to pre-feasibility study later this year and then feasibility study. And it would be a shame if all that money was spent and those steps were taken around a non-optimized mining program. So first, we'd like to focus on maintaining our portion of that JV and thinking about anything we can do to help those in the area bring together a larger project. Not really, again, not much we can do. I think that's something that's controlled primarily by B2 at the moment. But we'll maintain our ownership in that. Our 100% owned ground is, I think, maybe some of the most promising ground in the industry right now. Obviously, we have all of the Circa shear zone on that ground and running into the joint venture. It seems unlikely to me that the fluids that deposited for Ickery found their way from the Circa shear zone all the way up to that property without leaving more along the way. Karis is one of those, Omruska is one of those, and we're just going to keep looking for more, but carefully. Capital is pretty tight right now, so focus is the joint venture. Let's see some path to daylighting value for shareholders there. And then I think that either provides non-dilutive capital or a lower cost of capital to continue to work the remainder of the property. Bob, thoughts on level of M&A in 2024 for exploration companies? I think that I would expect M&A to pick up. It's hard to point to big deals out there right now. Obviously, Snowline is the discovery that everyone has their eyes on up there in the Yukon. About an $800 million market cap now, and a really, really remote and rugged place to work. Nonetheless, it's so big and the high grade comes so close to surface that I think it's going to be in somebody's pocket at some point in the next couple of years. Rupert, we all know, is on the block. Reunion and G2 are on the block, although perhaps they should combine before they can get bought. So with declining production everywhere in the industry except at Newmont, you would think things will have to break soon. And I look forward to making sure that we arrive at that party with a relatively good capital structure and able to be helpful. Robert, what do you think of Firefox? Great guys, and I think I'm happy to see them doing business with Agnico, and I hope for good returns for their shareholders. So that's all the questions that I see, and I think we're pretty close to time up. Maybe I've been cut off already.